how to feel confident in the conversation. How do you get past like the voices in your head, the old stories in your head about maybe talking out of turn, people being angry with you, not feeling confident, not owning a conversation, saying what you want, all that kind of stuff. The first problem is that when it comes right down to the subconscious application of this, it's an authority problem. Throughout all of history, right, there have been rituals that humanity has had to move people from teenager to adult. It was a line of demarcation that they would go through. They had to prove themselves. There were tests that they had to pass. They were given they went from children responsibilities to adult responsibilities. It was emphasized the power of their individual choice and their position within the community to live up to an adult standard. And we've kind of almost washed that away in society. Children kind of meld their way through, and with a lot of things like parents not wanting kids to grow up and not pushing them out of the nest and making them do specific things that require them to mature and grow and solve difficult problems and build that confidence, you end up with a ton of adults that just kind of wander into adulthood. They consciously know they're an adult. They have some adult responsibilities, but their subconscious does not know that they're an adult. As they approach the world, they're going, yes, I'm deciding, to buy a car or to pay this bill or buy a house or rent an apartment or start a business or whatever. But the way that they consistently evaluate everything around them is bouncing off the subconscious idea of somebody else being an authority. And that would be whoever the authority person or people were in their childhood. And the rules and the disappointments and the ideas and the disciplines and the fear and whatever else goes with that they gave you, whenever you want to do something outside of the box of what would be normal, right, in the way that you were raised and then going into an adult as far as what your life would look like, those ideas go right up against that subconscious programming, and it changes your emotions, it changes your feeling, it changes the way that you think, and you don't end up doing it, or you don't end up doing it as powerfully as you can. So the first part of the process, and this is for everybody, okay, because everybody can continue to get better and better and better at this skill set. I want you to pay attention to the first part of this, which is when you enter into a conversation with anybody, okay, anybody, somebody you know, somebody you don't know, a family member, a non-family member, business situation, ask yourself, how do you feel about your positioning in that conversation? Because here's what happens with most people. They enter a conversation at the subconscious belief of their own self-worth, and then they react from that place, and they don't even know that they're doing it. Let's say you were taught, like, always listen to your elders, never talk back to people, be respectful, don't be rude, don't talk about money, don't ask people for anything, do everything that yourself, right? We've all heard all the different stuff. Subconsciously, that is guiding your behavior when you enter a conversation. Forget about what you say. Energetically, you've become subservient within that conversation. You're seeing yourself less than the people that you're talking to. Now, in business, in sales, there's a real issue with this because it gets combined with money, with the idea that this person is in a superior position to me and I have to get their approval in order to get money. In a sales conversation, you need to show up as a leader. You need to show up as a leader and a leader in authority of what it is that you have. You don't need to make friends. You don't need to get their approval. You don't need to get them to like you. You need to get them to buy. That's the idea. And that's why I keep saying over and over again, a sales conversation is different than any other conversation you'll have in your life with any other person. You've got to be conscious that you're in the authority position when you walk in. Now, that doesn't mean be arrogant or have an ego or be demeaning or anything like that. It's that you're a professional. You've got something that you know more about than they do, and you have the ability to help them. Now, on an equal balance in life, everybody knows a little bit something more than everybody else. So it's not an arrogant, I'm better than you, or it's not that. It's that here's something that I've spent a lot of time and study and work on, and I'm superior in this position. So I have the ability to help you where you can't help yourself in this. Maybe that's a product, maybe it's a service, whatever it is. But if you come in and you don't see yourself as that professional, you think, oh, I've got this little thing that might be good. Maybe you want to buy it from me, right? That's like an over exaggeration, but that's what's actually going on in your mind. You're not coming in as a person of influence. You're being influenced by the other person before you ever get in the conversation. They're influencing you. And what's crazy about it is they're influencing you through the authority figures in your childhood. They just become an external representation of those authority figures in your childhood. In other words, the person that you're going to talk to, you're making the call, you're doing the presentation, whatever, is a projection of mom and dad or whoever that authority person was when you were a kid. You project that belief onto that person. It's not that they have any authority or any less authority than you in any way other than the authority that you give them. They don't have any power other than the power that you give them. So when you enter into any conversation, you need to start practicing. How am I entering this conversation? Am I coming into a conversation as a leader, or am I coming into this conversation as less than the other person? Am I intimidated by them? If so, why? Because here's where your subconscious will try to fool you. Your subconscious might say, well, they've got all these accomplishments and they've got all these degrees and they've got all this money or whatever it is, and it has nothing to do with it. That's the trick. Right? You're making them superior by the rules that your parents gave you to think about other people. You're putting them in that position. A lot of us had parents that put people like doctors, lawyers, like people, professionals, in a godlike position in their life, right? Oh, they know everything. We got to do exactly what they say. And they're not. But if a person puts a person like that in that position, then they end up following the rules or the script of what that would actually look like. So that's the very first part of this. You have to start analyzing how you're showing up in every conversation. I've seen parents where the kids are running the house because over time, the kids took the authority position because the parents couldn't set boundaries. And the kids literally are telling the parents what to do. Mom, go get me this. Mom, get me that. Mom, would you get me a drink of water? And the mother gets up and does it. They don't even know that they're being manipulated. And here's what, the sick part about it? They call it love. I love my kids. No, you're scared of your kids. You're afraid they won't love you. You're afraid they won't accept you. You may be even thinking to yourself, I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good father. And if the kids get upset with me, it verifies that because somebody else put that idea into your head. What happened in school? You didn't get the good grade. The teacher got down on you. Your parents got down on you, right? You got a job. If you didn't please the boss, you were reprimanded. You were demoted. You didn't get the raise, right? So we've spent years, 20, 30 years with the idea that we've got to please people in order to get ahead. And we don't. It's all bullshit. It may be if you're in a job, right? And you've got somebody that is pulling that moral superiority complex thing, but no. And you have to break that. And you're the only one that can do it. And it takes work. It takes work. It takes consciousness. Every time you go into a conversation, I am going to be a leader in this conversation. And you have to learn how to do that. You have to speak what you want. You have to ask for what you want. You don't just go along with something just because to go along. And it's uncomfortable. There's nothing that makes that go away other than practice. Yes, it's uncomfortable. And you need to do it in every area of your life, right? Because if you're not doing it in one area, you're probably not doing it in another area. You just go along to get along. You're not asking for what you want. You're not insisting on getting what you want. You just accept what everybody else suggests. The more you do it, the better you get at it in business, in sales conversations. because you have to be in that solid position in your mind that you're an authority, that you know what it is that you're talking about, that you can help another person, not beat them over the head, not convince them to buy, but actually help them. Because somebody that is a real leader doesn't try to convince somebody else to do something. They influence them. They ask questions. They bring them along as part of the problem-solving solution, right? So it is learning another skill set. But the first part of it is totally psychological. I can give you the best sales script, or I can tell you everything that you need to know about how to have a conversation with somebody. But if you see yourself as less than the other person, it won't work. It won't work. And the other person will know, by the way, they will pick up on that. And it'll either cause them to be egotistical or overbearing with you, or they'll want to move away from you. If you sell something that makes it a big difference in somebody's life, but you don't have the confidence to go with it, they won't want to buy it from you. Because remember what we read in trust, they won't trust you because you don't trust yourself. You don't trust yourself. But for today, just think about this, right? Pay attention to the conversations that you have today, right? Pay attention to what you say yes to what you say no to the boundaries that you create, to things that you ask for or you don't ask for. Don't beat yourself up. Don't judge. Just observe. Because if you don't see where you're doing it, you can't correct it. You can't correct it. It's not difficult, but it takes work. It absolutely takes work. You have to work on it and work on it and work on it. I had to work on it and work on it and work on it. And you constantly have to tell yourself, I'm the authority. Not just once, all day, all day. Why? Because you have to rewire your brain to recognize that you're the authority. I could say, great, David told me I'm the authority. I'm the authority. That's wonderful. But my subconscious hasn't changed. I consciously know that I'm the authority, but when I'm not thinking about it, my subconscious goes back to, no, you're not. And you're going to feel uncomfortable every time you do something where you're breaking the rules of your parents, or you feel that you need permission, or you don't want to be rude. You know, usually we cast this thing in some kind of a view of, I'm being caring, I want to be friendly, I don't want to be overbearing, I don't want to upset anybody, I don't want to be pushy. All of that is insecurity about your own authority in life. And it resembles the stories that you heard growing up, because not one of those things that I mentioned has anything to do with leadership. Nothing. It might have to do with somebody who's being abusive, but it has nothing to do with leadership. So give this some serious thought today. Love you. Have an amazing day. I'll talk to you later.